Okay. Good night. Good evening to those who would be joining us shortly. I'll take another minute before I start. Good evening. Good evening to those who are now joining. Share the live as you join. Share the live. Tonight is a call in night where you'll be having the opportunity to call in and we can discuss on topics of interest that I was raising for the past couple of nights. If you realize that the topics would have changed a bit, not a bit, a great lot, because I would have been able to garner information, digest upon those information, and be able to wanted to share with you, my brothers and sisters of Aboriginal origin or Moorish Americans. Now, tonight, it's a discussion, yes, but it's also based upon the history of the Americas and the Aboriginals in the Americas. Now, before I get to that, I want you to know that you can call in still. A pleasant good night to all of those who are joining. This is Gavin Matthews-Bey show. I'm coming to you live from the GMBS Live Voice of the Nation and the GMS Live Radio Guyana. Welcome to you all. Share the live as you now come in. Share the live, share the live, share the live. Yes, good evening to you all, or good afternoon. Okay, good evening and good afternoon to those who are now joining. Uh, Share the live as you're now entering. Let everyone know that Gavin Matthews Bay is live right now. So let them tune into Dr. Matthews, Dr. Bay, as a matter of fact, so we can be able to have a fruitful conversation, a fruitful talk this evening to help to inform you about what is going on. But one of the main issues of this evening that I want to cover is it's ear fraud alley. I want to be able to cover that particular event that took place in England today or yesterday and was proudly reported to a news organization by the name of Sky News. And I want to digest on that, divulge on that some more. And yes, good evening to you, to those who are joining us. Welcome to to welcome to Dr. Gavin Matthews Bay show, and I mean B-E-Y as in Bay. That's my title. That comes after the last name. B-E-Y. Please address me as Dr. Matthews Bay or Dr. Bay. It doesn't matter, but Bay must be the last pronunciation of identifying me. And I'll take another minute whilst I continue to talk. And I want to divulge more upon it so we can have that conversation. I will very much prefer if you call in because tonight is your night. We can call in and we can speak some more upon the information given to you in this edification process. I'll be very much appreciate if you share that live and get your pens and your paper out and your pencils and get yourself ready to write as we discuss these topics. And to those who are calling in, please don't hesitate. I want you to call in tonight. Make your calls at least 5 minutes short because I want to have others to gain that opportunity to call in. Yes, you can say, brother, I don't mind. But to those who are looking, I have taken the chance to give up my citizenship to the Corporation of Guyana. I'm no longer a corporate Guyanese citizen. I'm no longer a corporate Guyanese citizen. I am a Moorish American. I've been identified by that. That is my identification. My title is B. And when I say Moorish American, I don't mean to that part how we think of the United States. I'm talking about right here. We're on the South American continent. So I have the right to proclaim my nationality as a Moor and as American on this particular soil, which is South America. So I'm no longer belonging to the Corporation of Guyana, which carries our citizenship. I'm no longer aboard any ship to sail and to go anywhere. I belong here. Here is the land of my foreparents. Here is a title. Here is where my title belong, and the land in which I own and I have inalienable rights to. Okay? So to those who are now joining, a very pleasant good evening to you once again. And share the live, share the live, share the live. Now, let me start by no hesitation. Let me start. So this is Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey coming to you live from Guyana to the Caribbean Isles, the West Indian Isles, the Pacific Isles, the British Virgin Isles, US Virgin Isles, Mexico, US, Canada, UK, EU, Beijing, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Japan, Korean Peninsula. To those who are joining me from Tajikistan and Uzbekistan, Pakistan, and Hindustan, which is now India. To those who are joining me from Australia, the island continent of Australia. I was talking these things the other day, and I was saying to my friends from Melbourne, Australia, but not Melbourne, Tasmania, Australia. Then I realized when I did my research, I realized Tasmania is a group of islands off the shore of the continent of Australia. So I am going to reiterate by correcting myself and to say, welcome to those who are joining me from Tasmania, from the Isles of Tasmania of the continent of Australia. A very pleasant good evening to you who are joining me from that particular portion. To those who are joining me from the island, no, sorry, the continent of Africa, or the continent of Kush or Kemet, anyone. A very pleasant good evening to you, or good morning to you from whichever part of that continent you're looking at me from. I wish you safe and pleasant journeys in the things that you want to do today, because I'm told that Africa is another whole new day. To those who are joining me from the South American continent, as far away as some Chile and Argentina, and Peru and Colombia, and Venezuela, Brazil, Suriname. French, and Dutch Guiana. To those who are joining me from the Netherlands, um, to those who are joining me from the island of Curacao, the twin islands of Trinidad and Tobago, and the island republic of Barbados. A very pleasant good evening to you. Tonight is a call-in night, so you can still call in to those who are joining and let your voice be heard. To my Aboriginal brothers and sisters, when I mean Aboriginals, or yes, to my Aboriginal brothers and sisters, to those who look like me, I wanted to make it absolutely clear. Mr. Air Fraud Ali, who is the president of the corporation or CEO of the Corporation of Guyana, is in no right to represent my lineage. Oh, sorry, I'm really not interested in what he said, but the lineage of my brothers and sisters who looks like me. Mr. Air Fraud Ali did not come from such a lineage. He has no right to sit before no corporate entity like himself to say that he is asking for a comfort of apology of slavery. He has no right. Let me make it absolutely clear. That child has an entry date. He has to remember that. Mr. Air Fraud Ali has an entry date. They came here as indentured laborers. Let me reiterate. He has no right. That's one. Number two, before he goes to say that he represents people who were enslaved, the Aboriginals, he must remember his vice president, who is responsible for 1,480 Aboriginal people that were murdered under his tenureship as CEO of the corporate of Guyana. He must remember that. Mr. Air Fraud Ali has no powers to sit there to say that he's looking for a slight apology or a grafted apology from the British for slavery. He has to remember nothing for him came to Guyana as a slave. Everything for him came to Guyana as an indentured laborer. They were underpaid, yes, but they were still paid for their labor. We were not. We were enslaved. And as a matter of fact, this guy ain't got no history. His history come all the way from Hindustan. That's where his history came from. He cannot sit down and represent me. I just can't understand what is going on with these uh with these people who call themselves CEO and central executive officers that belong to the Corporation of Guyana. And they're dark like me, and you can imagine you let a thing like that go all the way over there to England to sit down to say that he's representing enslaved people from the corporation in which he's CEO of. Man, this is disgraceful and disrespectful. Are you serious? Man, I am trying my best to be on my best behavior. Seriously. as a Moorish American, I'm trying to be on my best behavior. You know, Mr. Gavin Matthews-Bey has been trying for the past couple of days, but somehow or the other, I cannot understand how can we sit down and have something like this just before our eyes and say nothing. I don't mind you going at the Housing and Central Planning Authority for the corporation to protest. But something like this, you should protest in front of the British Embassy. Seriously, how can an indentured laborer represent the enslaved people of the Corporation of Guyana? And to make it more, and the thing is that he went till over there to talk about apology of slavery, and they are still enslaved unto this day. The Aboriginal people are enslaved to a corporation right now. I had to give up. I, about a week ago, I gave up my identification as a slave to become free. That's why I can call myself a Moorish American. My people are still enslaved. Somehow they don't know that, but that's the fact. You're still owned by the corporation that Fraud Ali, CEO of. He now becomes the slave master. Oh, you don't know that? Yes. Yes, you don't know that? The minute you have a birth certificate that says you were born in the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, you are owned by the corporation. Fraud Ali is your slave master. As a matter of fact, anybody who becomes CEO of the corporation is the person who's being put in charge over you. And number two, the place that he went to sit down to talk about the apology of slavery, that's the head office. So it's like I am Boris Yeltsin. You come to me to sit down to talk about apology to slavery, and I'm smiling at you and saying, "Boy, you know you're still running the institution. You know that you're still running the institution of slavery. You come till here to talk to me about apology of slavery, but you're still running the institution. The institution belongs to us. You can't do nothing without me saying how you must do it and when you must do it. Can you imagine that? So we're going to do some history tonight. Brothers and sisters, I want you to call in. Tonight is your night. So don't let me talk out all these minutes that we got. We got an hour and a half, but we 18 minutes within the time frame. You can still call in. I'll very much appreciate you calling in because tonight is your night. I want to give you the opportunity to call in, ask any questions. I'll be able to respond to you. So I want to make sure that my history is correct of the Aboriginal peoples of the Americas. You know, and where I'm reading from, I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking off my own head. I'm quoting off of somebody that they call Ivan van Sertima. He's an he's an historian, an African history and settlements. That is his position. He died, yes, but he's also Guyanese. As a matter of fact, he was born in the Corporation of British Guyana back then, before Guyana became independent. Because one of his first lecture was in 1976, and that was before I was born. So we're gonna touch upon some identification of history to show you that we were here before everybody. So this little child that went over there to talk about reparations, he has no right to represent us. Who gave him such rights? Guyanese, yeah, for real? Aboriginal people that are looking at me right now, y'all for real? Seriously? Let's dig up some history. Mr. Eider, a Norwegian explorer, discovered the native African had ships that sailed across the North Atlantic Ocean thousands of years ago. And he was, and the book that he was that he was right that in his book that he was referring to is information since 1327, before they even had the Spanish conquests. Since 1327, the Chinese were even trading in African countries long before Columbus. And the African countries were found where? Most of them were found in the Americas, because in Americas is where all the inventions were taking place. Although the continent of Africa were having inventions upon inventions, I'm going to show you this. Before Columbus discovered anything, African seafarers sailed to the New World. 400 Mali ships sailed to the New World. And this information was garnered since 1310. The Mandingo kings had a 1311 expedition. Archaeological evidence shows that the African explorers reached Mexico, Central America, North and South America since 800 BCE. They were black explorers who heavily influenced the pre-Columbian America. You could imagine, in 800 BCE, they called themselves at that time pre-Columbian America. No, sorry, my apologies, not pre-Columbian America. In at that time, that was the area identified, which is now Columbian America, in the place with the country that they call Colombia, since 800 BCE. And this information was provided not only by the good researcher Mr. Ivan van Sertima, but as a Aboriginal Guyanese who identified the Aboriginals way back then, before the South American continent, or the continent of America that is found in the southwestern hemisphere, or South America, were broken up into pieces and named by countries. I mean, were given names by corporations. So this child that went over to England to sit down to talk about reparation for enslaved people doesn't even know what he's talking about. If I go to Torang and ask you what happened here in this particular part of the world in the year 800, he doesn't have a clue. But I can tell him when he arrived here. And can you imagine? We who have lineage over the land in which we call Americas, suddenly he who come here have more authority more than me. Because you know why? We're in a corporation, an enslavement camp. That corporation is Guyana. You listen to the word Corporate Republic of Guyana. Yes, we are still a colony of Britain. but we fall under the Commonwealth. We still enslave people because we practice democracy. You know, the Black Law Dictionary awakened my sights to things that I didn't knew about or I didn't know about. I'll be honest with you. I didn't had a clue about such things. I didn't even know that the words in which I use stand against me to the corporation. You know, it's like you stand up there and you say, well, yes, I'm a black man, and the corporation sees that you're calling yourself a black man. They identifying you now as a black man. So what happens with you now? They create principles that they call laws that governs you as a black man, as a commodity, as a trade, as a stock. You want to talk, you want to see what I'm talking about? Go and find your information in the stock market and you'll get to understand. I had to research that too today. To know that everything that has certified you has been traded on the stock market. You are live bonds. And they give to you money. You understand? They give to you money. And to those who are looking, to those who are here to divulge on this information, hold on. This person said they were a Muslim sector of the dark race whose ideology was not accepted by black Israelites. They conquer Spain, spread their own ideologies. I think you never heard to this brother who was talking here. I prefer you call in so we can have this discussion. I thought you never heard about the 1777 treaty between the Ottoman Empire or the Moorish Empire with the United States. Then it was 13 states. I don't think you heard about that treaty. But if you would have heard about that treaty, then you would understand that the Moorish Empire, right, would have been there long before the Caucasites came, those from Europe, and they wanted to trade like how they do it in every part of the world they go. They settled to realize that there were goods and services that they can invest from, and they wanted to trade. So they entered into a treaty. And if you check the history of the US, you'll realize that that treaty was there only for cooperation. Cooperation. Yes. So that corporation was named the United States of America. Even to Mr. Obama acknowledged that when he when he gave his inauguration speech, he said the very first country that recognized my country's independence was the state of Morocco. And Morocco was found right there. Not the Morocco that you think of that's way in the African continent where they say you know, that's Morocco. No, that's another state that calls himself Morocco. But Morocco, the original country, the land of ownership is where the United States is. You understand? That's why the United States is a corporation, an entity of a corporation. And every other country that comes under them, like how Guyana and all these people are forming themselves, are corporations too. They are now foreign affairs. Well, I don't want to go too much deep because I'm hoping that you stand over the information that I'm giving to you or you comprehend. So, what happens to most of us is that by our lineage depends upon our laws. And our laws is what we see, is what we do. It's like I was explaining last night when I was talking about what a driver is. When you check the dictionary, the driver is somebody who operates under the commerce. It's a commerce activity, a driver. So the commerce activity is moving goods from one place to the next to be sold to activate commercial activity, which you call economics. That's a driver. So if I'm operating a motor vehicle and I'm not doing commerce, well, then I'm not a driver. I'm merely traveling from point A to point B because that commerce activity falls under the corporation. So if you're operating a motor vehicle, you're not a driver, but you're licensed to drive. That means you accept what the corporation tells you who you are. You're a commerce. So that's why they treat you like a commerce. When they stop you, they tell you, where's your driver's license? You produce your driver's license. When you produce your driver's license, right there and then you enter into a contract with them verbally for them to do you what they feel like. The next thing they ask you for insurance, registration, all these things. Failing to supply those things, you fall under the laws of the commerce. You fall under the laws of the corporation. And then you go before the court to answer charges because you're failing to recognize not only your identity, but your corporation citizenship to follow all principles. So, well, good. Well, then you see now, and as I say again tonight, this evening, it's a time for you to call in. I want you to call in for us to have this civil conversation because I want to wake up and enlighten the minds of those who are still asleep. Can you imagine? The CEO of the corporation went till to England to sit down to talk about reparations about its subjects, the subjects of Guyana, the corporation of Guyana, who are still enslaved, to tell you that some apology is needed for those who were enslaved. But if you check it out, we still do. Our education become limited. I was even surprised today when I went to pick up my son. They were doing this same issue in school when it was talking about the arrival of the indentured laborers. It was part of social studies. When they arrived, the treatment that they got was harsh, but they got little wages and all these things. So in school, they're teaching you of your arrival, not mine. We didn't arrive. We don't have a date of entry. They came here, every other race came here and meet us. But did you know why he went over there to talk about reparations? You think it's reparations he went and talk about? Let's put facts. Let's put facts. He went over there to talk about reparations. He went over there to talk about the abandonment of the natives, which are the Aboriginal, to seize more lands, to give it away to them. You see all them European countries coming to Guyana now to invest. Suddenly they're turning up the representation of other countries and companies. You see more companies from the US is coming here to Guyana to invest because you know why? The land is free. Here fraud went and tell them no, well here, the Aboriginal, the Moors, the original lineage of the land are now giving it up because we got all of them under a certification of a corporation. The minute you says yes, I am a Guyanese, you give up your rights, you abandon your rights. The minute you sign that birth certificate of that child that are born, you abandon that child. To say no to all this enslavement that you see that we're going through on to this day is to proclaim your nationality as a Moor. Simple. I stand to proclaim. They can't tell you nothing. They can't tell you gotta go to no court to get a depot to change it. No, no, no. They can't tell you anything. The law resides in your actions. A lot of us don't know that. You know when the law becomes law? When you act and you say, okay, yes, yes, all right, I can come, that's when it becomes law. If you say no, it can't becomes law. If you say no, here, my brother, you think Ali don't know nothing about? He might know the history about the Aboriginal people, but he's well informed about the corporation that he runs as a shadow government of the international corporation. Every country that you see that has a name that are linked to the Commonwealth and all these people are shadow government. He went till there to talk about reparation, and they still got racist activity going on in Guyana. It's enslavement. Racism is enslavement. Oppression is slavery. When you gotta work for a meager wage to survive in the corporation that you call yourself a Guyanese citizen, it is it is slavery. You're living in enslavement camp when they can take away your rights. They can send you home. They can take you know the amazing thing. You work so hard for that fiat dollar, and you're paying taxes, pay as you earn, uh, allowance taxes, VAT taxes. You're paying all of those things, and yet still they're taking it and giving it to people who never work hard yet in their lives. That's how a slave. That's how you create a slave. Come by, you got work, pay taxes. When you pay taxes now, I pass a budget for billions of dollars, and you ain't even getting a blind cent. Let me show you this. The Enmore packaging plant that they were talking about. You see, guys, Suku gave $100 billion worth in contracts. You see anyone and people look like me? You see where the contracts going to? Yes. You see where the contracts going to establish whatever investment in structure that Enmore is going to put up. $1 billion worth in contracts. Mhm. The 100 million in start yet, but out it's $1 billion. All in contracts. And you can imagine how the pockets are full in. You can imagine you have sat there and paid for years NIS contribution. And they build the white elephant in Borbis. And then they build the bridge. All for the NIS money. Out of that $5 billion worth, you're getting it back? No. And he has the audacity to sit down there to say that NIS is bankrupt. Definitely right. Who's the person to be blamed? NIS is bankrupt. This child that we have in England are paying his kindsmen or his kindsman monies from the treasury to make them feel comfortable, and we got to sit down and beg for crumbs, and you go on over there and tell people that you're operating on behalf of us for reparations. Are you serious? Hmm? The white Europeans also already know that. He just come to Boris to talk about which part of Guyana they're going to take now. That's what he went to do. It's a confirmation. That's what he knows that he's going to do. But he doesn't have a history of Guyana. He doesn't know anything about Guyana. He knows he's the CEO of the corporation of Guyana. He knows that carefully. And it could do what we want because the democratic system tells them that they can do what they feel like. That's democracy. You ain't even getting nothing. Hmm? Nothing. You ain't getting. You go into the Aboriginal villages or the villages of Afro Guyanese, or you want to call it. What you doing? Who ain't drinking? Who ain't smoking? Who ain't committing? Who ain't doing drugs? Doing Mali? What you think all of those things happen? What you think the response of all those things is? It becomes a crime. It says, "Show me your friends, and I'll tell you who you are. Show me, show me your character and your culture, and I'll tell you who you are." You now become a criminal by definition because you call yourself black. You become a slave by definition because you're property of the state. Black is an adjective. You can trade on it. It can become a commerce, a product of commerce to be traded, to be sold. That's what they're doing to us. And you go over there to talk about apology of slavery? Are you serious? When you got a vice CEO, or he calls himself the vice president, who is not only responsible for the atrocities that took place in that 13-year tenure of his presidency, but it happened under his watch. Their intention was to annihilate the population of Aboriginals. Their intention was to commit a genocide, which he did. Man, look, I don't want to talk all the time. I want you all to call in tonight. It's your night. And I want you to call in and let's have this discussion, because the only way we can have that discussion is if my people comprehend all of what I'm saying. Because at the end of the day, they cannot do without us. I'll be honest with you. They cannot do without us. And the only way they can brutally enforce whatever they want is to keep us being enslaved. If we stand independent, you'll be see what happening. They'll come and sit and talk with you and try to reason with you. And let me show you one of the instances. Yesterday, no, on the 17th of this month, on the 17th of this month, one of the kingdoms of Sudan was reinstated to proclaim their ancestral lineage to the land in which they must have. One of the kingdoms, because you know why? The CEO of that corporation that you call South Sudan have now realizes who were the original people of the land, who owned it. One of the kingdoms are now being reinstated. Brothers and sisters, we can't only use the internet for things that doesn't make sense. We can only use the internet for rubbish, things that doesn't really edify us or educate us, and not educate. Look at the etymology of words there. The word educate means to educate that animal. And we go to school and we talk about the ministry of education. We, you ever ask, it's now I realize why prayer don't send your children to no government school, because it's just there to design to educate animals. A lot of teachers that I know even here teachers right now as I'm talking doesn't really understand, doesn't really uh how should I put it over? Doesn't really comprehend the etymology of education, that word. I sure if you study it and you research it and you realize, you stop telling your children that come to school to have an education, I think you'll stop using that word. But we are so blinded within the system that we don't even know that the adaptation to words that were given to us and the words that we use are law. When we say it and live it, it becomes law. We don't know these things. When we go before the sham court of either the magistrate court or the high court, they try us upon what we do and say. You check at it. Anything you say can and will be used against you in the court of law. Imagine they telling us that in point blank. The truth is right in front of us. But to comprehend what is said, we feel that they use the judicial system to incriminate us. No, they use our own actions. They use our own words to incriminate us. I can't send you to jail if you're not guilty. I cannot send you to jail if I can't find no evidence upon you. But I can send you to jail based upon what you said. Because when you come before the court, it's me trying you based upon what you said. Your verbal altercation, the words that comes out of your mouth, suddenly written down, signed by a law enforcement officer. What's the law? Your words. I'm enforcing your words. That's why when you come over now to us, the proclamation is to enforce the Constitution. What is the Constitution? The same information before there was the Treaty of 1777. Our lineage, that is the Constitution. You are a hero and a great educator of the black people. We salute you. I thank you very much for saluting us, for saluting me. But please remember, we need to take out the word black and use the word aboriginal or Moors or Ottoman from the Ottoman Empire. Anyone that you want to choose, because black is what the democratic system gives to us. And racism. They use racism. Let's look at facts. Corporate system acts as a shadow government that does things that are not edible for the people. They give a group of people the name black. They act racist. They oppress those that they act upon as racist. Then they enslave them by the principles that they use to govern the corporate entity. Little that they don't know about. So any person who rebellious like me, I'm trying to raise the issues to open their eyes to let them see what is it that the system is feeding off of. Well, I know you can't hunt me down. Hold on, wait. I would like to ask you a question is, are only black people were slavery? Mr. Siram, Jai Siram, before you ask the question, I believe you should learn how to put together a proper, statement. All right? Hold on. We were not enslaved. We weren't, slavery doesn't start at our history, Mr. Siram. We were here before slavery, although we became enslaved under a system. We were here before slavery. Our empire was there. That's how we used to run the world. That's how you gain uh your nationality. As a matter of fact, in every country, Mr. Siram, even from the country in which I believe you came from, Hindustan, because you have an Hindustani name, you understand? There are Aboriginal people from that same land that you went. So even to that, you have a date of entry. Even to the own land that you came from, have a date of entry. But the corporation would never teach you the true history, the true story of the Aboriginal people, of such an empire. They will never teach you that. It's common sense. They won't teach you that because they want you to remain who you are, not knowledgeable of the fact. They won't teach us it because they want us to remain who we are, enslaved, and always be bound to the system by bonds. We are live bonds. We are being traded. So, to those who are now joining, I was reading a very small history of Aboriginal people, I mean, like myself, in the Americas before they had the enslavement, before they had the corporations and treaties of the corporations, and those who came who has an entry date. And I want to make sure when I read it, I'm reading history of us who were here long before anybody ever discover, as they claim that they discover. But we were empires that entered into treaties with corporations, and that was the fact. It says before Columbus discovered anything, and I'm reading it back so I want you to understand. And this information was given by Dr. Ivan van Sertima, a Guyanese, an Aboriginal who went and studied African history and artifacts, and upon those who were in the Guianas way before anybody else. And a lot of people don't know that. People might know about Ivan van Sertima, but a lot of them don't know that he was born in British Guyana. A lot of them don't know that. So, before Columbus discovered anything, African seafarers sailed the New World with 400 Mali ships. In 1310, the Mandingo kings had a 1311 expedition, sorry. Archaeological evidence shows that the African explorers reached into Mexico, Central America, and as early as 1800 BCE. They were black explorers, or they were Aboriginal explorers who heavily influenced, which is now pre-Columbia America. In that area, they were heavily influenced. That means the population was so large. We call them the swarthy people. Means dark in complexion. You understand? And he went on to say that Idaho, a Norwegian explorer, discovered that native Africans had ships that sailed across the North Atlantic Ocean thousands of years. Now, Gavin Matthews says so. These are evidence. Who do you think they sail across the Atlantic Ocean to meet? People like themselves. That's what happens. People like themselves. Hold on. Believe you me, my brother, to that person and I really wanted you guys to call in. I don't want to call in name, but Miss Wilson, I didn't have this information that I'm now talking about 2 years ago. You know when I got all of this comprehension. Now I'm going to say roughly about a month and a half ago, studying it. I now come to a comprehension that the words that I use on my show also is law. So I now have to study how to converse, to relay myself to you, to those who are looking. That's why I start striking out certain words like black, because the system prefers us to keep on using that word. It becomes an identification to slavery. Black. You understand? So it's not that I want to keep it from you. Any person who has this knowledge and keeps it from you, it's a terrible person. It's a person who does not care about his own kindred and kindsmen. It's a person who thinks only of him or herself. It's a person who wants to make money off of you. Money that doesn't even have worth. Oh, we get it in the billions, billions, hundreds of millions. See what happens when a natural disaster comes. It ain't worth a thing. See what happens when the natural disaster turns up. All the money that you got in the world ain't gonna worth a thing. Ask the Venezuelans, they're gonna tell you though. They will tell you that all that money, all that fiat paper, piece of paper that make no sense, ain't worth a thing. Yes, Ivan Van Sertima. Look him up. Stop watching the nonsense on Facebook and YouTube and TikTok. We are far beyond that. Let us start reading and doing researches. I'm giving you information since the 1300, 1310, 1311, 800 BCE, that there were explorers who came to these lands and knew that they were Aboriginal people. We didn't cross the Bering Strait. We didn't have an entry date. It's them who came. Why do you think the system now is being breaking up, torn up into pieces? Check it. All around the world is being chaos because the people are now beginning to wake up. You mean for tell me we can still sleep in this country? In this corporate system that we're living in? Are you mean to tell me that we are going to still sleep? Look, look what's going on. Now Vladimir Putin is telling them, and I'm talking about the president of Russia, the CEO, is telling them, oh, y'all want to take away my millionaires' money? All right, good, take it away. Now we're operating on the gold and silver. And come the 15th of this month, the new month, you can see what will happen to the American dollars. And all we feel is a niceness going on. You best start storing up things in your house. Because when anything on worth nothing now, but currency ain't on worth a thing neither. Because we gotta get gold and silver to trade. Of course. You understand? To those who are now joining in, the topic is based upon our story, our history, but it was supposed to be a call in night because I wanted you to call in. I wanted you to start reasoning. I wanted you to help me to understand that you comprehend, or help me to comprehend that you comprehend, or help me to stand over the facts that you comprehend. You understand? What are you storing with, Miss Glasgow? Well, here what you need to store up with. You need to store up with the normal nutrients that you give your household. That means your dietary facts. If you eat a lot of peas, store up some peas. Store up lots of peas. Store up foods that are going to last you for 6 months. Water must be essential. Buy a big tank, buy a black tank. Fill it up. Use it, but fill it up. If you buy two, buy one for storage and one for use every day. If you eat rice, make sure you store up enough rice. If you use a lot of oil, should not be recommended, because after a while, when oil becomes scarce, well, then you don't know how to cook. So start cutting down on the use of oil. Okay, flour is important. You keep that. So peas, rice, flour. If you must use sugar, yes, it's important enough for you to store that. If you must use meat kind, make sure that you have a little garden or a little poultry farm that you mine two or three different types of, chicken. Hold on. We don't have money normal, much less than store to store. You don't have to get money to store to store. I just said a little kitchen garden. Whatever money you get, you use up some of that to store. There can become a time when your landlord waiting for bills to pay rent and money is storing because the stock market crash. So you can get money to pay. Think about it. Gotta start bartering now. So start storing up any things that you can barter also too. Because somebody can be out of rice, the landlord can be out of rice, and you can be able to barter in order to survive. We gotta get real. The time is now. To those who have gold, is the best time to store it and to keep it. Don't wear it on your neck and your ring and your fingers, because it can become such a scarce commodity to wear even a penny weight of gold, it can lose your life. Gold and silver, those are the two important things, because that will be deemed as currency. I know what I'm telling y'all. Whether or not the Guyanese doesn't want to listen, and they can bring another singer sometime down the line, and they want to spend all the money, they can never say that they never hear a man talking about storing up goods and storing up food for a hard time to come. Salt is one of them, yes. No, Mr. Fraser, I cannot talk about what Jagdio is doing. We have enough sense now. When we do something that is opposite to what he's doing, he now becomes awakened to realize that the people are now awakened. So we can't talk about what Jagdio is doing. The people has the money to do it. They got the wealth and they got the resources. If you can pay $8,000 per ticket, 2 or 3 tickets for going to see somebody sing for 3 hours, and spend over 20 at 15,000 of y'all flocking the stadium. We got money. They're talking about the all white party supposed to come. Is all white or all black party supposed to be in Linden? People gonna flock there just now. They have the money. So why are you saying that they're poor? These Aboriginal people got the money, but because there's so much in present slavery, that it's hard for them to wake up and see the light. Because when they are being given these kind of attractive, enslaved nutriments, entertainment, they think all is well and beautiful. And they don't get it free. You can imagine you enslaved, you paying to be enslaved. It ain't free. You're going to work hard. When you're done work, you get in the fiat dollar and you got to spend it back on the slave masters. Hmm? Back on the slave masters. Hold on. Well then, if you're talking about what about weebles, then you gotta know how to store your food. You gotta create a pantry. And then you gotta open out your foods pertaining particular days so it wouldn't attract. You gotta know how to store your food. You gotta know after a while where you got put it in the sun or not. I was storing some Quaker oats, and every when I realized 2 3 weeks passed, I had to use to put it in the sun to make sure it doesn't attract weevil. Even if it got weevil, it got crawl out. Or you gotta throw it out, open the pan to make sure that the sunlight hit it. There are different reasons on how you can store. You got to learn to store your food. If you understand, if you stand over and watch I'm saying or you comprehend, you gotta know that the water that you store, you gotta put a chlorine tablet in it to keep it from forming the kind of worms, because water at the end of the day is made up of bacteria. And bacteria can form masses. And masses forms land mass. At least we gotta know that because we've been taught that in school. So we gotta know these things. There are certain bags now that you use that takes out the oxygen from out of the product that you're storing, so it wouldn't even form weevil. Weevil can only be formed if oxygen is created within the package that it the food wherever stored food is stored in. And store your food, you can store your clothing that way too. They're becoming a time and very fast. Very, very, very fast. It is best we inform each other now about what is going on. This child went over there to give up our rights to the enslavement of a people more, to the British Empire that intends to slave more of its corporate citizens. Went over there to do that and forget. He even forget. You can imagine he went over there because he's CEO. He knows these things are going to happen. He went over there to do that and forget that he himself has an entry date. They can't kill all the way out. Only if we let them to do that. But they can't kill all of us out. I said what I said before now. When I said no, I am willing to give this up for my brothers and sisters. They got to be notified. They got to be educated and not educated. If everybody is listening and comprehending what I'm saying, we have the right to notify each other. We can do this. We must do this. We must do what we are doing presently. This is the only way we can see a future for not only us and our children. Is to declare your nobility, declare your nationality. Your nationality as a Moorish American. To step out of the corporation that still enslaves you. I know to some people it's a hard thing to do. It's like those are the story of the Bible when it says the Egyptian, some of them who were enslaved to the Egyptians didn't want to come out to Egypt because they still see Egypt as a land of flowing of milk and honey. That's how the democratic system works. tells you this is the land of flowing milk and honey, but the milk is so dangerous, it's poison. The honey is deceased. So when we eat it, it doesn't do good to our bodies, neither to our souls. So why must you stay? You aren't going nowhere. You're remaining on the land in which you are native to. You're just declaring your rights. That's what you're doing. So don't bother with the fanciness that you're seeing that's coming out from England. And you can imagine they're using another slave to tell people to come and invest. These people know how to use these slaves. Believe you me. You're making joke when you're a house slave. You're making joke when you was a house slave. When you got rights to walk in master house and feel nice, puff your chest up high, wear your suit and your tie. To encourage the undocumentation of enslaved people. Talk about reparation. You could imagine that. And the house slave talk about investing. To come more and take away our lands that belongs to us. Hear this nonsense. I'm sure a lot of us didn't read the papers. We have met a milestone where we were given 560 million US dollars out of, out of 15 million barrels of oil. Out of 15 million barrels of oil, we're given 500 and something million US dollars. From ExxonMobil. That's what we inherited. We inherited actually 400 and something million US dollars from after sales money. And then the royalty is 100 and something million US dollars. You know, it's like it's like an embarrassment. It's a slap in your face. That's what we were reduced to. You know, that's what we were reduced to. The slave masters, engineers, engineering more enslaved people. Y'all come. This is the democratic way of life. Y'all come and enjoy gay and they upon give way. The people stupid bad. They ain't got sense. They like slavery. They will embrace slavery even more. Y'all come. Come in a bundle. It there. Naya give way. The government ain't got to get a hold of no oil. The government already gained it away. They can't even hold on on the oil. And we got to stop looking at it as a government. It's a CEO company. It's a company that enslaves the people of the native origins of the land to give it away. Check it. If it leave to us as Aboriginal people, you think Exxon could have come and do them half them nonsense they're doing right now? No. So because now we're certified enslaved people under a corporation of Guyana, we ain't got a choice. May the best politician provide that choice for us. We can't say what we need to say. I have learned that it doesn't matter what the Constitution says, is what we say as a people. I have learned that. The Constitution can stay right there. but is what we say now becomes law. Yeah. What we say out of our mouths now becomes law. Remember, the scripture says that man shall not eat by bread alone, but every word that proceeded out of the mouth. Who do you think is God? God means government of a democratic system. God. That means the minority, the nobles that calls themselves the ear frauds and the jagdios and the anils. They are the government of a democratic system. So we give to them our authority to speak on behalf of us because we are unable to speak. We are now becoming ignorant, not knowledgeable of the fact. So when we place before the court, we have to hire a lawyer to represent us because we are ignorant of the law. So our excuse now is the lawyer to represent us. And woe be unto he if he represent me properly. I go to jail because of my acknowledgement of my own words that is used against me in the prosecution. That's why when you write a statement, when the policeman write the statement and you sign to it, it tells the court that you're unable to represent yourself. Policeman write the statement, tell you please read and sign it, just to make sure that everything you say, this is it. I know. I did that. I didn't know that I was basically giving my rights over to the young man that can be my son. And next you know, I got to court. The prosecutor lashed the daylights out to me, and the poor lawyer can't represent me because I give all the evidence, which is my words and myself. I gone to jail innocently just because I'm ignorant or will refuse to read. And we keep blaming the PPP and the APNU AFC, but you know what? We're forgetting to blame ourselves. Because if we know the fact, yes, Mr. Fraser, it's okay to call in. If you could call right now, I don't have a problem. But we know the fact. Hold on. Thank you for calling Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey Show. Good night to you, sir.
Good night, good night. The good doctor.
Yes.
Um, Listening to the show, I called it a little late, but just some comments in reference to what's happening in Guyana there. It seems to me that the majority of Guyanese are asleep. They're simply allowing this racist, corrupt, mafia-style government into most of the Indians are stealing the money. By the time you guys realize, well, maybe by the time you figure it out, it's all going to be gone. And especially Afro-Guyanese will continue to stay at the bottom of the ladder and just collect crumbs. Now, Jack the Hoe should already been in jail or banished or go away. Fraud Ali, gone. Singh, gone. All of these people, look what they did to the NIS. And these people are still in Guyana, back for a third term, a third act, creating mayhem, stealing the money, giving out billions of dollars in contracts to the East Indian supporters. So Afro-Guyanese have no prayer but except to collect crumbs and think even when they get a couple of millions, they think they're good. And they're using Afro-Guyanese to carry out. So it's like stupid. That's what I call it. You know, we don't have sense, we're being sentenced. Imagine country like that where Africans bill and Indians reap. Solution is majority of those Indians that voted for the PPP should be banished. That is the country that Africans built. And look what state they're in. And continue to be. So here is it. Jagdeo in his, pronouncement talking because they are not scared. Look what they have done to the former finance minister. And they will keep doing it to African Guyanese because you guys just sit down and take it and wanting to know how far they want to push it up. Our tolerance level is very high, and basically none of those other countries are going to see or to think anything about Guyana, but it's all glory because they do not see anyone on the streets doing anything. How many times we will have a gun went off in GRA and already they were saying was an accidental discharge. You had the REO, I think, shot the Amerindian girl in his vehicle. What happened to that? The Henry boys, what happened to that? So much stuff gets done, and you guys just sit down there and just take it. So that's why the Europeans are not doing anything because they do not see unrest. So if
But now, if I may cut, now we are not asking the Europeans to do anything. All we're asking is that we, the people, the Aboriginal people of Guyana, we think we are Native Americans. You understand? All we have to do is declare
the
independence.
Aboriginal natives are not going to do absolutely nothing, trust me.
Well, it's nothing hard, but I'm saying it is better to start somewhere than to don't start at all.
Yeah, but with all what they have seen, have they done anything? No. So it is up to us Africans because the Amerindians are siding with the Indians.
No, here, as I say on my show earlier, if you realize that as I was talking, all of them has an entry date except for us. They can be deported at any particular time because they are not Native Americans. We are the Native Americans. We were the Caribs. We were the Arawaks. It was our history that was plagiarized and fed back to us. But we need to understand where do we stand as a people and what are we doing about it. Now is the time.
Well,
I don't want to blame here. I stopped wanting to blame all the political parties because the political parties support a democratic system. And it's against us.
when we talk about political parties, I'm talking about when we as a people um, let the others know whence they came from because without us Africans, none of those races can be on earth. Without us, there's no them. But they don't know that, and we don't even know that. So here's it: you have to impregnate the children and start them from young
Wonderful,
to get them to understand who we are as a people. And until that happens, we are going to continue to suffer.
If we start doing this, we at least we wipe out the ignorance in a generation and allow the new generation to come
Exactly.
with the knowledge of
Exactly.
who they are, what they came from, an identification to their title and lineage to land. You ain't got to beg nobody for nothing.
Exactly.
You understand?
Exactly.
Good.
So that's what it will take for the smaller, younger children to know who they are, because big people lost. Children will be lost because guess what? If the parents don't know nothing, the children will know nothing because the parents can't teach what they don't know.
So we're gonna take another minute before I close, so I just give you a chance to
Yeah.
send a message if you want to someone or to people who are talking and looking at the same time. Go ahead.
No, they've heard my message basically, and they just got to get up their behind and do something.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, good. Thank you very much for calling.
So there we have our first caller for tonight, but I appreciate that at least he called and he said the right things. We need to start educating our children, educating them, sorry. We need to put the right factors together. I know what they learn in school is a bunch of rubbish. What they learn in school is not history. It's plagiarism. It's what you call indoctrination, because nothing is true that they learn in school. I was even surprised that today they're talking about the Treaty of Chagaramas. We talk about treaty way before Chagaramas. But it's time for us to get down with the truth. What is the truth? What do we know is the truth? We are natives of this land. We were the first. Everybody came and meet us. Everybody has an entry date and an expiration date of expire. Any day we can send them back to the country of origin or to the place of origin, as a matter of fact. That is law. It's enshrined in the Constitution. It's enshrined in uh in the 1777 treaty. We come to a realization that, well, look, at the end of the day, this is what we made that agreement with. Our forefathers made this treaty. So we can benefit. Just like how you're benefiting, we can benefit. But when you decide to take our beneficial factor away from us, well, then something is wrong. And nothing that the corporation does benefits us. Nothing. It kills us. The Food and Drug Administration kills us. The education is for animals. That takes away our right to see ourselves as living souls. They call us subhumans. Then they take our rights to coexist away from us. And then they try to tell us that we don't have inalienable rights. The inalienable rights is our ancestry. It's part of the treaty that we designed. It's part of our lineage. We were born with it. I wish I love these parts in which I participate. I'm always ripe and ready because my people, you need to be awoken. The time is now. The time is now. Awake yourself and realize that you are the rightful heirs of these lands that we call America, Central, North, and South America. Our forefathers made a way for us and designed it to be. We are the beneficiaries. Now somebody trying to tell me that we didn't born yet and we come here as slaves. We didn't came here as slaves. We were here long before slavery. But they didn't want to tell you that. So when people like me who rise up from time to time to try to calm us down. Well, they realize they can't buy me. I love this. This is what I call wealth, power, and I feed my people with it because they have a right to be fed. This is Dr. B, Dr. Gavin Matthews-Bey. I appreciate the time that I've spent with you this evening to bring to you power, word, truth, and wisdom. And I want to tell you tonight that I am pleased that I had a very good understanding given to you and you were able to respond to me, although a lot of you didn't call in. I would very much prefer for you to call in. And the story continues of our lineage and will never stop. I want to say to you that the support of the Black Love brand is something that I want you to understand. It doesn't represent us as a people, it represents an action of the corporate system to stand against such action, to stand against racism, oppression, murder, terror, tyranny, slavery, all these things. That's what Black Love is about. To stand against that. It is owned by me and patented by me, and I appreciate it if you call and support the brand so the movement can be strong. The number is 611 65 75. And I appreciate from now on, you just refer to me as Dr. B. I'm going to try to change that information also on Facebook. So when when you're responding to me, is to call me by my title, the title in which you use BEY. It's my lineage back to my inalienable rights of me and of my ancestors. Stay safe, be careful, sanitize yourself, wear a mask, and don't forget the little ones you take into public places. This is Dr. B saying good night and Cheerios for now.